unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello, welcome, happy Friday. I hope this show sends you off nicely into the weekend. Here's some of the interesting stuff you'll come to understand on tonight's program. Why are your goals so hard to keep? Your commitments to yourself. New research says when outcomes seem far away from us, we don't really stick with things. But when the joy is in the now, that seems to work. And you'd be surprised how your boring goals like being more fit can be reshaped, reframed to be more fun to you and therefore more likely for you to accomplish. That research we'll dig into in about 10 minutes time. After that, bear with me here. The other day I was trying to research the best can of sardines money could buy. And I found a YouTube channel called Canned Fish Files. Yes, Canned Fish Files. Sounds amazing. It is. With over 100,000 subscribers, a beloved channel with a strange canned fish influencer, we are going to have that guy on the show to educate us on the important answer to this question. Is being a canned fish influencer a viable career path? That's the kind of programming that this show and this hour needs, and that's what we'll dig into later in the hour. All right, that's just some of what you'll learn tonight. There'll be other stuff, but for now, let's jump in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in news on a show, about a show, covered on the very show the news is about that show's host, we talk about this show right now. I, David Cooper, am going to be away for 2 weeks going to a festival. I am here with Tony Five, foreign correspondent who doesn't understand anything and has questions. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hello, my friend. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. The show about nobody is about you, somebody, David Cooper, and your disappearance from the show for 2 weeks. Where are you going, my friend?
I'm going on holiday. I'm going to an arts festival in the middle of the desert with a bunch of hippies who run around naked on who knows what called Burning Man. And we're going to have somebody filling in for me on The Last Show. So it'll be The Last Show with David Cooper and Tony Five, guest hosted by a woman by the name Kaitlin Green. She's fantastic. She's been on the show before.
Fantastic. And is she a professional, David?
Yes, surprisingly.
Well, she's already beaten us then.
I know. So this show in this hour on the very station that people are listening to right now, well, it's probably just my mom, will have a consummate professional at the helm starting next Wednesday, which is going to be a unique occurrence, really.
I mean, do you think they're going to be able to cope with coherence, with, planning, with actual content, David?
I've specifically requested that they not do those things as to not break the format of the program, but I do think that might happen.
Very difficult, very difficult. And are we actually going to try and pay her?
I mean, yes. It's a weird question.
Even better.
Try is the key operator there. But yeah, no, I'm going to this place called Burning Man, and I try to get you to come every year, Tony. It's not a music festival.
No.
It's an art festival. So it's people who build
Nope.
thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars of these artistic structures in the desert. For 2 weeks, it's all temporary, and then it gets completely struck. And after the event, the desert turns back into an empty mass of nothingness.
Okay, dear listener, from that last 15, 20 seconds of promo of Burning Man Festival, you all think, oh my God, this is amazing. He hasn't mentioned the fact there are no toilets, hardly any running water, it's 150 degrees, it's dusty, there are loads of hippies there, it's absolute insanity, and you have to go in a hole in a toilet.
Well, there are porta-johns or porta-potties. What do you call them in the UK?
Porta-potties.
Porta-potties, okay.
Portaloos, porta-potties.
Portaloos, oh, I like that. But they're sitting there in the desert sun. They're not like shade covered. And so it's literally like a bathroom sauna without flushing. Because it's, with the porta-john, there's no flushing. It's just all there in that horrible blue liquid. That's probably the worst part about it. There is sanitation, but not much in the way of sanitation.
I mean, I don't think I'm being offensive by saying that hygiene for you is way down on your list after radio broadcasting, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's another feature of our fill-in host, Kaitlin Green. She is hygienic.
She bathes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, it's what you want for your radio host, right? If it's every radio listener's dream to have a host that bathes.
But it's a really cool event, and because it's so difficult to get there, like it's 2-3 hours away from the closest city, if you want electricity, you got to bring a generator, you got to bring your own water, you got to build or pitch your own accommodation. Everyone who's there really, really wants to be there. You know, there's no fair weather Burning Man attendance.
I think that's quite a nice thing. Yeah, I think the fact that it's so difficult to get there, you have to kind of plan it in advance and kind of go there. Even though, like you said, the people are hippies and kind of free-spirited people, they have to be relatively organized, I'm guessing, because you have to bring all your stuff, right? You're going to be living essentially off-grid.
It drops just below freeze or just above freeze at night, and during the day, like you said, it's 7,000 degrees with the beating sun. And it's really dry. You got to be sure you're hydrating. If you don't build shade or go seek shade, there's no respite from the sun.
Right.
And so, like, yes, there is a bunch of hippies, but if people don't prepare, like, they will die of exposure. This is no joke.
And the weather can be extreme. I remember a few years ago when you went, there was absolutely extreme weather at Burning Man. It made like mainstream news, didn't it?
It did. It rained. I mean, that was the whole story. But because it's a dried up lake bed, the mud kind of gets activated in the rain. And it gets really, really treacherous. You can't drive in it. And so all these like 70,000, 80,000 people were stuck there. They couldn't leave. And, you know, when people are stuck, 70,000 people in a place without running water or electricity, that becomes a story. Now, it dried up. Everyone got out. But had it not have dried up, I mean, eventually those porta-johns wouldn't have been serviced. Eventually people run out of food and water. There was that fear.
And you're playing it down, but you actually had a captive audience. That was probably your best listenership ever. People were holding on to your every word. You were giving them sort of emergency sort of advice, right?
It's funny, when I go on vacation, I just go to do work. There's a volunteer-run radio station at this event, and I work the event at this radio station. So, like, it's more of a hobby. Like, we don't get paid for it or anything, but...
They call this in England a busman's holiday. So, where people who do the job go on holiday, but essentially do the same thing on their holiday. So, that's what you're doing, a busman's holiday. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be broadcasting from there. Oh, maybe I'm really excited to possibly call into my show and be a guest on my show, but that'll be some exciting thing we do. But, yeah, there's all this cool stuff. At the end, they burn this huge effigy of a man. It's this wooden structure, and it's like people can look at pictures of Burning Man, you know, the man burning. And there's this other structure called the temple that all these people visit and put notes about lost loved ones in.
Wow.
And it's very somber. People don't go messed up or drunk or partying.
Yeah.
And, you know, like one year I went, I just lost my aunt. I left a little note about that. And it's a very cathartic, sad experience to be like group mourning loss with like hundreds of people in this beautiful temple structure, which also burns, but that burn, everyone's quiet. That when the man burns, it's a huge party. Yeah, it's like a fun little event with its own little culture. It's got amazing art, amazing music.
And it's a barter system, right? So, I mean, again, at Burning Man...
No, that's a common misconception. You got to bring your own food and your own water.
Yeah, but you don't bring money, though. That's what I meant by barter system. That's what I meant by barter. So, you swap stuff, right?
People give gifts for free. Like, there's a camp handing out grilled cheese sandwiches, but you can't rely on that camp. Maybe there's a camp handing out bracelets or, you know, little trinkets. Everyone sort of brings these gifts at their own expense and then gives them out for free, and people often trade them. But it's not like okay, I'll bring the water and I'll trade my water for food. Yeah, it's not like that.
Oh, no. I meant like the ethos is like not like capitalist. Yeah. It's like more, you know, it's like a commune, I guess. I don't know, maybe that's the wrong word.
People spend thousands to get there. I mean, I just am in a hot tent, but people rent RVs for thousands of dollars. So people spend a ton of money. It's super capitalistic up until you enter. And then while you're there, you can't buy anything. Nothing is for sale.
Well, dear boy, just to say, I will miss you. You will be missed, but not that much missed because I'll be sitting on a plumbed-in toilet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And hopefully you'll be on the show with Kaitlin Green, and we're going to do a great show tonight. Tony will be back. And I just wanted to tell people about this event. And for the next 2 weeks, starting next Wednesday, we will have a fill-in host, and that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm going.
And if you do have a running water and a plumbed-in toilet, please do email me at tony@lastshow.pizza.
All right, or give us a call if you love plumbing, 1-888-505-6644. Thank you, Tony. After the break, we'll tell you how adding joy to your goals will make you more likely to meet them, at least according to science.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Many of us get caught up chasing big goals in life, eating better, saving money, running further, and then we stall out. Well, new research says the real secret here isn't willpower or distant rewards. It's enjoying the process you're going through right now. Fun, engagement, loving what you're doing fuels follow through. Helps you meet your goals. Maybe you can design or reframe your boring goals so they actually stick. I'm here with someone who's done research in this area. She's a marketing professor at Cornell. Her name is Kaitlin Woolley. Kaitlin, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. I know those are hard to understand terms, at least for me. What does that all mean in plain language? And what exactly are we talking about here when we say life goals?
Yeah, so extrinsic motivation, it's those goals that you do because you really think they're important, right? They matter for your long-term well-being, right? It might be going to the doctor to get a checkup, right? Running that 5K because you think it's going to be good for your heart, things that are really important in the long run, right? Like delayed sort of benefits. Intrinsic motivation is when you really experience enjoyment from the process. So the goal becomes the end in itself. You can think about maybe there's like a part of your job that you really enjoy that brings you like fulfillment just from doing it. A lot of times I think people think of hobbies as intrinsically motivating, but goals can be intrinsically motivating too. And I think this is where it gets really interesting because when you're setting a goal, people are really focused on those important delayed benefits. But when they're pursuing it, what we find, it's the enjoyment that really matters, whether they stick with it.
So the old cliche, and I know it gets said a lot, that it's more about the journey than the destination. Based on your research, there's kind of some truth to that.
Yeah, I would say definitely. Yes. And so I think the destination's important. So I don't want to like understate the importance of the destination, like have, going to an important destination rather than like a less important one is going to matter. But you want to have the journey be enjoyable along the way.
How do we study whether people stick to their goals or enjoy chasing them? Like what exactly, walk me through the specific research. I know you tracked resolutions over a long time period or something like that.
Yeah, so I ran the study. It's really exciting to me because we did it over the course of a year and we were able to get people in December, the end of December, when they were setting their resolutions. And so that's why we have a wide range of these different personal goals that people have. Like I think you can come up with prototypical New Year's resolutions like healthy eating or exercising, but people have just a wide range of very different goals that they're trying to pursue. And so we were able to have these goals that people set for themselves, right? It's not us telling them, here's a goal that we want you to adopt. They set it themselves. And then we followed them throughout the course of the year, pretty much like seasonally, so 4 times throughout the year, to ask them how well they were doing at actually sticking with that goal. And we were able to kind of track them longitudinally in that way.
So studying goal keeping, you pick such a great time window, New Year's. It's when the average person who doesn't set and stick to goals does it. So you got this really interesting sample. What were some of the things you found? What made people engage with their goals and what made people forget about them about a week later?
Yeah, so the questions that we asked, we asked people, right, how important is this goal to you? How useful is it to you? How life-changing is it, right? If you think about New Year's resolutions, that's a time when people have this fresh start and they're willing to really think about like, where do I want my life to be in the next year? So they're setting these really big, important goals for them. Like they want to buy a house, they want to pay off their debt, they want to start a family, right? They maybe want to change their relationship with alcohol. Lots of really, right, important life-changing goals. And so we asked them those questions, but we also asked them, how enjoyable is it for you to pursue this goal, right? How interesting is it? How engaging is the actual pursuit of that goal? And what we found is that over time, whether people stuck with their goal was better predicted by that enjoyment, that intrinsic motivation, and not by whether it was something that was actually going to change their life or not.
Did people underestimate that power of enjoyment when picking their goals? For example, did some people pick goals they knew they would enjoy the process of and others just didn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we asked people, we ran a couple of post tests on this, and we asked people, like, what do you think is going to matter for predicting goal pursuit? Like, could people basically say in advance whether intrinsic motivation was going to matter? And they were actually better at that question, like getting that right for other people's goals. So if I asked you, for example, about a goal that you set, right, how important is it that the process is enjoyable? If you're like, oh, for me, it doesn't matter. It's more about, is it important for me? I'm going to stick with it. But people were more accurate when they were thinking about other people. And so this is, it was a post test. It's something that we kind of want to explore more. It's kind of interesting that people were worse for themselves than for others at getting this right.
Is there a way to frame something boring, to kind of trick ourselves, to frame it in a fun way? For example, you mentioned quitting drinking or drinking less as a common goal for people. Rather than just saying, okay, this week I'm going to have less number of alcohol units, you could say, hey, every week I'm going to join a book club where the people don't drink, assuming you love reading. Like, are there ways to take goals that are set up in a way that commonly fail? It's the same goal, but frame it in a way that's likely to succeed because you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, so I've studied this in a different paper. We tried a couple different ways to try and take boring goals and make them more enjoyable. And so the one way that you suggest, it's kind of like adding in immediate benefits. So maybe, quitting drinking is kind of hard, or cutting down on drinking is hard. How can I find something that's enjoyable to do while I'm doing that? So coming up with a new book club where people don't drink. I could also think about, I think the rise in popularity of mocktails helps with that too, because if you can find a tasty substitute that makes it easier. I get this question a lot with exercise because I think some people have a love-hate relationship with exercise. And so I've thought a lot about ways to make exercise more enjoyable. And so one way is running with a friend, like exercising with a workout buddy. That makes it more fun. But even just listening to upbeat music, watching your favorite kind of reality TV show, having your favorite beverage, right? If there's a Gatorade drink that you really like. So those are really changing the activity. But I think you also raised this point, could you reframe it? Some activities do have enjoyable aspects, but we might not be thinking about it. So with the New Year's resolution, because I'm so set on thinking about what's going to change my life, I might neglect the fact that the goal actually has some enjoyable moments to it. And so if I think about those and bring those to the surface, that can also help to increase persistence.
I've spoken about researchers about the power of streaks, which seem to have some benefit for keeping goals. For example, run 1 mile every week, and you sort of keep track of it throughout the year. I don't necessarily want to talk about streaks, but I want to talk about your research area, which is sticking to goals and reframing or creating goals in your life that are easier to stick to. So I guess my last question for you is, from your paper, from your research, if you were to hear naively that I'm going to be setting some goals soon, what would your best advice for me be so that I would keep them?
Yeah, so I would think about, set a goal that's important to you. So I think that is key, is having something that does matter. You're not going to follow through on something if it's not important. But when you're setting it, I would say also try and factor in the ways to make it enjoyable. And it seems intuitive, but people just don't do it because they're so focused on those long-term benefits. So find a way to set it up so it's okay, I'm going to try and exercise 3 times a week. How can I actually make that something that I'm looking forward to, something that I'm enjoying, so that when it's a really hard day or I'm really tired, I can still get out of bed and do that workout.
So is just doing it with a friend the best way to do that? Or maybe, I only get to listen to my favorite song if I'm running? Are there many ways to do it? I'm just trying to think, how can I make exercise fun?
Yeah. So for me, I would say variety is probably really important. I think having one solution is not, you're going to get bored of that over time, right? So you might have one friend that you love to see all the time. And so having that person be your workout buddy might work, but they might not be available all the time. And so I think about, having multiple options in your toolbox, essentially, to try and make it enjoyable. So maybe it's upbeat music one day is going to get you going. Maybe it's, you really enjoy this one Peloton instructor, so you're going to follow their workout. You have a parasocial relationship with them, and that's going to motivate you. Maybe another time you're watching a fun movie and you can exercise with that. So I think being creative and trying to include enjoyment and maybe in a variety of ways is going to be most effective.
The Peloton instructor example, was that oddly specific for you, or?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm here with Kaitlin Woolley, a marketing professor from Cornell. Kaitlin, thanks for talking to me about your research and goal setting. This might help me.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Up next, you've heard of the fight, flight, or freeze response, but for Gen Zs, there's a new stress response that looks more like asking the question, "Are you mad at me?" during episodes of anxiety. It's called the fawning response. And why are so many kids responding to things that way? We'll tell you in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This season, the game begins before the games begin. On August 26th, it's FanDuel Futures Day. 24 hours of deals on all your football season predictions. Futures Day is coming. Visit the FanDuel app to learn more and get your picks ready now. FanDuel, play your game. 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Exploring both interstellar and interpersonal space-time continuums. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Fawning. It's not just about flattery, it can be a hidden stress response. Read receipts, social anxiety, this is the world of young people. And Gen Z may be people-pleasing their way through fear and anxiety. I'm here with someone who's recently wrote on this. She's a senior health reporter at Business Insider. Her name is Julia Pugachevsky. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You spoke with a Gen Z, a therapist, I believe, about the fawn response. I'm not sure everybody knows what that is, what it looks like, but I think after you define it for me, they must know some young person that responds to them like this.
Yeah, definitely. Essentially, there are 4 different types of stress responses. I think most people would know fight or flight. There's also freeze. And then fawn is, I think, one that is only become defined kind of recently, I believe in 2013. So it's still fairly new as far as people talking about it as a legitimate stress response. And it's essentially people pleasing. It's trying to, control the situation or control someone's response by pleasing them or by trying to to fawn. Yeah, exactly like the response to fawn.
For those of us that had stressful childhoods, tough relationships with parents, I think this will ring true for them because when you've got an angry parent, one reaction is just try to appease them, be nice to them, just appeal to them. It really is a way to try to manage anxiety and stress. And after reading your article, I'm like, oh yeah, that's something I've done. That's something that a lot of people will recognize without actually putting a label on it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the most interesting thing is, for example, unhealthy family relationships or trauma or all these things have existed forever, right? Where Gen Z is not unique in having these problems necessarily. But what is unique is technology. And we have all these new ways to interpret rejection or someone being angry at us. And that is affecting people a lot more. So I think if you already have these people-pleasing tendencies, they can be heightened with technology, social media. So essentially, you can kind of get stuck in that cycle and find it really difficult to get out of that cycle.
And the anxiety and the worry can be heightened by technology. I mentioned read receipts in my little introduction for this conversation here. I've interfaced with a young person where I just haven't had time to respond to them, but I guess they saw that I read their text message. I don't know, I was busy. I was out with a friend. I glanced at my phone. I saw the text. I'll probably write back later. But then I get the text the next day saying, "Are you mad at me?" And I worry. I'm like, oh no, I caused this person anxiety. Is that fawning response? Like asking if you're mad, trying to be like reaching out, addressing like worry that this person doesn't like you?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it can come from, we talk about left them on red. That's a common phrase. And it's considered a bad thing. If you're left on red, that means that someone doesn't care about you or they're...
Some conversation has to naturally end at some point, Julia.
No, I agree. I think that's why people like those, I forget what they're called, the reaction.
Tap act.
Tap act, yeah. People like that because that's the polite way to some people interpret that as the polite way to end a conversation without having the red receipt or having no response. Because, there's just this discomfort of the conversation just ending for a lot of people. And there's so many other ways too. It's, if you post something on social media. Let's say you got engaged and you posted your photo on Instagram. You could interpret rejection from someone not liking the photo. You could interpret rejection from, well, my best friend only wrote a heart emoji. That's not enough. What, is she mad at me?
Or they didn't follow you back, or they didn't comment enough. I've heard these complaints, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I wish I had more empathy here. Gen Z grew up online, and all these little behaviors that I didn't have growing up kind of magnify rejection for them, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's and again, it depends on the person. It's obviously not all of Gen Z, but I think if you're someone who's already prone to kind of overthinking things in general, overanalyzing, or if you grew up, let's say, with like emotionally immature parents or a volatile household, I think that can just heighten everything so much more because, yeah, you just have more stimuli. Because back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, if you had a weird moment with a friend, you'd either have to call them on the phone and talk about it or wait till you see them in person. So you would sort of get over that feeling. But now you can text them and ask them if they're mad at you. You can, look through their Instagram and see what they're up to and, try to figure out if they're mad at you. So there's so much nowadays.
There's a moment in your article where you mentioned people consulting ChatGPT as to whether, I don't know, people are mad at them or trying to figure out these social anxiety situations. Nothing speaks more like a younger generation than something like that to me. Tell me more about how all these anxieties provoke this fawning response a little bit more for this younger generation. Like, what are you observing when you talk to people?
Yeah, I wrote a different story a while ago about younger people, I guess specifically Gen Z millennials, but using ChatGPT as therapy because it's cheaper and it's more accessible. And it was sort of kind of addressing that same sort of impulse. Even if nowadays you can still get a therapist, you can text, or there are all those apps now like BetterHelp where you have more access. And for some people, even that is not enough because the therapist is a person, they clock off. ChatGPT you could talk to forever. And you can essentially just keep asking it questions. Do you think this person's mad at me? Okay, I laid out this fight I had with my friend. Who's right? Am I in the right? All these things that can, especially if you're a person and we're all looking for validation, you can always kind of phrase your queries in a way that the response is to your advantage, where you're kind of correct in the scenario. And again, if you're someone who's prone to rejection, you're someone who's prone to seeking validation, very dangerous cycle because you could fall into always thinking people are mad at you and then always needing that validation either from other people, or you might say, okay, I don't want to drive my friends crazy. Let me go to ChatGPT and get even more in your head about interactions you have with people.
Seems like a doom spiral to me. To someone whose immediate response to anything that causes them anxiety, anything that causes them social anxiety is to fawn, is to try to people please, is to try to check in and wonder why people are mad at you. What advice do you have, or how do you sort of work on that part of yourself so that impulse goes away?
Yeah, definitely. The therapist that I interviewed, she was saying, the best thing you can do is at least put the phone down and give yourself 10 seconds just to even process what is happening to you emotionally. Because I think, especially if you're very online, your emotions sort of bleed into each other. Sometimes you can react to stimuli and not even realize you're feeling rejected. You just feel a bad feeling. So I think even naming these emotions is important. And I'll say too, I'm drawn to this coverage because I myself am someone who is very prone to fawning and people pleasing. And I may have used ChatGPT once or twice for the reasons that I outlined because it's, it's bad.
No, I feel like my comments earlier are going to make you feel judged, and I don't judge you.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's something I want to work on. And for me, something personally, it's been helpful is just, I don't really post on social media anymore outside of like LinkedIn for my job. And I, in general, have reduced how often I'm on my phone or how often I'm on social media because I think that really does kind of create, I feel all this stimuli and I feel myself entering that sort of doom spiral, which is, I know logically is ridiculous, but it's hard when you're in it and you get sucked into whatever you're looking at. And I will say, like, I feel much more even keeled since doing that, and able to process whatever feeling someone doesn't text me back when I thought they did. That's fine. And that's a normal reaction to that is just to wait and see if they're actually mad at you. 99% of the time, they are not mad at you. So, yeah.
And if they are, you'll have a reasonable conversation about it at a later date. That power of pausing, like when I get these impulsive social anxiety feelings, this person doesn't like me, this was awful, I always sleep on it way more than 10 seconds. And the next day, I almost always feel better, or I can approach it with a level head. But that power of pausing before you act is so important. I appreciate you coming on the show, Julia. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The article is called Fawning is Gen Z's New Fight or Flight Response. You can read that in Business Insider, where Julia Pugachevsky works as a senior health reporter. Up next, a man with a loyal following who reviews tinned fish in a can. I've watched his videos. They are amazing. We'll find out what makes him tick, what drives him to taste sardines for adoring fans, and more. I am so looking forward to this. He's a hero. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and we will be back.
Are you feeling more fulfilled now that you're back to work?
No. I need a vacation.
See the movie that critics are saying is an awesome,
Look at that.
crowd-pleasing, fist-pumping, all-out brawl of a film.
You're right about that.
They're coming after our family. Go fix this.
Oh, my.
Nobody 2, rated R, only in theaters now.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The Last Show with David Cooper.
We are joined by a canned fish expert, a canned fish aficionado, the creator of the YouTube channel Canned Fish Files, with a hair under 140,000 subscribers. And we are going to discuss what life is like reviewing fish. Matthew Carlson is here. Matthew, you are one of my heroes. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
And Tony Five, our foreign correspondent, also a fish expert, joins us as well.
David, I am a wannabe sardine supremo, but I bow in the presence of greatness, David. I can't believe we've got this guy.
Matthew, for someone who hasn't seen your YouTube channel, Canned Fish Files, can you give us just a quick overview? I remember stumbling upon you on YouTube when I was trying to find what can of sardines would be great to buy from Spain.
Well, most episodes, I just open a can of sardines and I talk about them as I eat them, and I try to make it happen sort of in real time. So you sort of feel like you're eating a can of sardines with me. And, over the years, I've sort of developed my own sort of vocabulary for describing the fish and stuff. And to me, the show is not really like a hardcore food review show. And to me, it's like I'm doing like a comedy show or something. But most people don't take it that way. Most people are like really into sardines. And
yeah. Are you a lover of canned fish? Like, at what point do you realize canned fish is a direction that's calling you?
Well, I always loved fish, and I started eating sardines when I was a kid. My dad would share a can with me, and then, I didn't eat them for many years. And then, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I started eating them again as an adult. And, I was making YouTube videos. I'm a television editor by day, so a little frustrated with the kind of television formats and rules and everything. So I thought, well, I'll make really weird YouTube videos to kind of get my yayas out. And one day, and nobody watched this stuff, and I didn't tell anybody about it because it's just performance art that I was doing for myself, And then one day I made a sardine video, and nobody watched it for a year. And then one day, about 6 or 7 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, honestly, maybe 6 years ago, one day, I started getting like 10 views a day. And I'm like, jackpot,
Nice.
So I started doing more sardine videos. And then, it just kind of slowly grew. It's grown very linear. Well, there's been pops, but it's grown very linearly, if you ask me, for the last 5 years or so.
Your videos are amazing. You just sit at your desk, you open a can of seafood products, mostly fish, mostly sardines, but there are others, and you describe what you're eating. And that's it. And it's amazing. And people love you.
It's like a meditation or like an etude for a content producer to like try to make sardines interesting for 150 videos. That's the problem that I have to solve every time out is
And you really have.
I keep making the same video over and over and over again. And how do you keep people interested and get more people interested?
I mean, it's phenomenal. I'll be honest with you. It's like you're hypnotizing me via the medium of canned fish.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, you know?
It's a superpower. I mean, have you thought of using it for evil?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
Great answer.
What's your favorite product then? Like after all of these videos, what's your favorite canned fish?
My favorite is what they call small sardines, sardinias or baby sardines. And they're the standard sardine, but I guess they're harvested when they're quite young. So they're kind of small and firm and you eat them with one bite. And there's an aesthetic appeal. You open a can of these and they're so beautiful. It's like a fresh pack of crayons or fresh pack of cigarettes or something, how they're all laying in there glistening in the olive oil. And to me, that's a great can of those is sort of the peak aesthetic for canned fish. But there's all kinds of species and preparations that I'm into. I'm in the mussels right now,
Nice, you're in your muscle phase. When you run out of seafood, what's next? Because this is like there's a finite amount of products you can sort of eat. What are you going to go to next?
See, that's what you'd think, Tony.
And you'd be wrong.
Yeah, my goal is to get so far ahead on producing canned fish files that I can start another YouTube channel and just make it be about something different. I a long time ago, one of the random videos I made was I went around the subway system in New York City and I videotaped people walking around and stuff. And I did it in slow motion and analyzed it and add graphics, almost like it was like a football X's and O's kind of thing or whatever. And that video didn't take off because it's impossible to do search engine optimization for that. People don't know they want to watch this kind of thing. Like people don't know they want to watch it.
Right.
At least somebody will Google, how do I eat sardines or what sardines are good or something.
Yeah, like David.
That's how I found you. And I bought the Nuri brand, and no, I'm not a shill for big fish. Are you happy with this brand that I selected?
Oh yeah, Nuri. I'm thinking about doing an episode featuring Nuri today.
Are you a shill for big fish? Do they sponsor you for any of this stuff?
That's something that I'm starting to explore because as sort of a small creator, you don't really know what you're worth. I don't want to do things for cheap or free, but yeah. And you don't want to get in bed with anybody in a real hardcore kind of way, but yeah, you want to make the money,
Yeah, and you're doing pretty well. Like you've got a Patreon where people are paying you over $1,000 a month because they love your content. But that's not necessarily what I want to talk about. I want to talk about eating and reviewing canned fish having an impact on your personal life. What is it like hanging out with your friends being known as the canned fish reviewer?
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird. The people come in to I play pinball at lots of bars in Brooklyn or whatever, So people come in and they'll be like, wow, it's hey, Canned Fish Files. People will call me Canned Fish Files, on the street and stuff like that.
I have a name. It's Mr. Fish Files.
Yeah. I watch a lot of YouTube channels. I don't know what those guys are called, but I know the name of the channel, so I understand.
It's pretty amazing. Your content is fantastically well produced. I've got to say, when David said to me, you got to see this guy, I thought it would just be a guy sat on a table just eating fish and it would be really poor. But your sound effects, just the way it's done is phenomenal. How long does it take you to make these things?
It takes me about 2 days to make a video. I bet I could bash out a whole video in about 12 hours.
That's a lot of work for a can of fish.
But it's a lot of work because I work in televisions. And so I just have a bug up my about having things being professional in a way, even though what I do doesn't resemble what television is. But, I can make a real TV show, guys. It doesn't just always look like me sitting at a table or whatever, but,
The other night, me and my girlfriend had a sort of antipasto dinner where we just had a lot of little things. And I opened up a can of sardines.
Sure.
And I chose to drink soda water with the sardines, which made me belch sardine burps all night, which had an impact on my romantic life. But I'm not eating canned fish all the time. Does reviewing canned fish have an impact on your romantic life?
Well, it helps if you've been married for a number of years, because then it's like, hey, fellas, we know. The romance isn't what it was.
Does it enhance the love life? I mean,
if it would enhance the love life, that's not a love life I'd want to be part of, man.
So you're saying fish burps can throw a curveball into romance time?
I think so. I mean, even if my wife had no sense of smell, it would get inside my head if I was fish burping while we were trying to get down,
Tony and I look up to you. You've had successes reviewing canned fish online. I mean, this is a career you may embark on full time. You're starting to do better and better with it. My question for you is, do you have any advice for Tony and I as we embark on our radio journey?
Just do what you feel is like comfortable for you and kind of lean into it and make it, just all the things that you think that are banal or ordinary about yourself are actually very interesting to other people if you learn how to polish those aspects of yourself, I think.
Matthew Carlson, you can look him up online at Canned Fish Files on YouTube. Matthew, what a pleasure it was for you to grace us on this show.
Thank you so much.
Keep going, Matthew, keep going.
There he goes, foreign correspondent Tony Five. After the break, most of us had a lot of anxiety around leaving the home during the pandemic, but for a small few, after restrictions lifted, that persisted. Up next, somebody for whom a stray cat helped them leave their basement and face the world again. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
The show that makes you laugh, think, and occasionally uncomfortable. The Last Show with David Cooper.
During the pandemic, I think a lot of us dealt with fear and anxiety about leaving the house. Society was breaking down, but for some people, that fear and anxiety lasted even to this day. My guest was one of those people who struggled to leave the home when the pandemic was winding down until, and I gotta say, who rescued who? A stray cat helped him leave the home and face the world again. We're going to talk his story. He recently wrote about this in the Toronto Star. He's a reporter, and his name is Andy Takagi. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
So tell me all about where you were at, I don't know, as lockdown started to wind down and more people were leaving their home.
Yeah, I mean, I was just finishing up university. At that point, all my classes were still remote, so no reason really to go outside at all. And I was in a really depressing basement suite in Kensington Market in Toronto. So I'd seen this cat along my street, every time I'd have to go outside. And, there was just one day where I was sitting outside on my stoop. I lived the entrance to my basement was basically in between two houses. So you had less than a meter's length to kind of walk through and get to this door. And then so I sat in between the two houses on my doorstep and, not really doing anything, just trying to get some fresh air and not be downstairs. This cat, I named him Bear, but his name was definitely not Bear. It was something else on his collar that I couldn't read. 100% someone else's cat, by the way. It did not belong to the street.
This isn't the cat that you ended up taking. You did not kidnap this cat.
No, I did not kidnap this cat. But I love cats. I grew up with cats, and I hadn't had any cats since moving to Toronto for university. We just started hanging out outside. He was really sweet, would let me pet him. He just kind of hang out with me while I read my books, did my school readings. And eventually it gave me an excuse. I was like, okay, I want this cat to keep coming back to me. I need to get some kibble. So I was like, still kind of afraid, really messed up, and really nervous about going back to the stores and all that. And
were you scared that you would get ill? Was it just you hadn't been out in so long that the idea of interfacing with people socially was daunting, or was it all of the above?
I think it was all of the above, like being a young person in university, like I already felt overwhelmed coming to Toronto for school and meeting like a bunch of new people. But on top of that, all of a sudden, everything's locked down. Your avenue for meeting new people is gone, right? Like all of your classes are on Zoom. You're not really talking to anyone, right? Like you're not hanging out with people after class. Like it's just Zoom class is over. You're back in your basement. So, I was a little afraid of just human interaction, partly just because of like my awkwardness and anxiety, and I think partly because of the fear of getting COVID and getting my my partner sick or my family if I were to go back and see them, getting them sick. So I was nervous, but I was like, I need to get this cat some kibble. Like I need this cat to come back.
It's wild that those feelings were like there for everybody at one point, and then for a lot of people they just kind of cleanly went away, and we don't think about the people who struggled during that transition, and I guess you're one of them. But back to the story, we get the cat kibble.
So I was so like I got the kibble, I started feeding Bear, and he would come back like every day. We had like a set time right around, noon that I'd come out, sit outside. He would come out and join me on the stoop and hang out with me. And it was like a rain or shine thing. Like this cat was really determined to get fed. I think, I don't want to say that it was my personality that drew him to me. So, I realized that having some companionship, just even like a cat who, maybe they don't love you unconditionally, but as long as you feed them, they'll love you. I really needed that, especially coming out of the pandemic, just some emotional support. So I started fostering cats after that with Toronto Cat Rescue. And my partner and we fostered, I think 7 cats before we found our current cat, Franny, who charmed the hell out of us. And we ended up adopting her. But yeah, it's a great reminder that, I would walk around, and I still do walk around the city with a little bit of kibble in my bag, just in case I run into some street cats, because they're my friends. They're the reason to go outside and to explore the city. And I do genuinely believe that.
What is it about that simple companionship with an animal that helped you so much during a time when you were kind of worried about leaving the house?
I think it's like the most simple version of an interaction, right? Like there's no pretense. There's no like, hi, how are you? It's literally just, you stick out your hand. If they like you, they'll come up to you. If they don't, they'll walk away. And there's something so easy to understand about that interaction that just allays any kind of fear or anxiety about like, how am I messing this interaction up? How am I screwing up, this conversation? Or even, especially during the pandemic, like, am I going to get this person sick? Are they going to get me sick? There's a paranoia that's there. And, I think with cats, it's like, I didn't have to worry about that at all. So.
You say it's so easy to understand, they either like you or not, but for those who aren't cat people and are dog people and expect pets to just like you all the time, cats kind of meet you on their own terms. And there's something very special about that, something very comforting about that. If they like you, it's because they really like you.
Yeah, exactly. And if they don't like you, then it's like, you different strokes for different folks. I'm okay with you not liking me, and that's fine. And I think that's a good lesson for me to have taken. Like, I am such a people pleaser, like in my private life. Like I want everyone to like me and be happy. Obviously that's not 100% of the case being a journalist, but amongst my friends, like I want that to be the case. And so it was a good lesson that like, some people just don't match your vibe, and maybe you just don't get along, and that's okay. And I think that's an important lesson. And I don't think everyone learns it from their cats or cats, but maybe it's just a weird way for me to go about it.
Maybe. We once had a caller on this show who raised this kind of issue. She identified as someone who still struggles with being locked down and unable to leave the house. Maybe there's people who are immunocompromised. There are people that are still there the way things were at the pandemic. What recommendations would you have to people who were there, which is where you were before this cat?
Yeah, I mean, The thing for me is like I'm not immunocompromised. I think it was really just a mental anxiety about going back outside. Like there wasn't a health risk to me. The biggest risk for me was like getting my friends and family sick, right? And some of them who are immunocompromised. But I think the biggest thing was just getting outside, even if you're not talking to someone. Like for me, it was that thing of carrying kibble, like going to different parts of the city, beating stray cats and making friends and kind of exploring. Because
little things.
I feel like for me, I don't have a reason to go outside. I won't. Like if I'm not going out to go get groceries or go do something, then I won't leave the house. So it gave me a reason. It was like, oh, I want to go meet some cats, so I'm gonna go outside.
What motivated you to write this piece? It's called How a Stray Cat Helped Me Leave My Basement and Face the World Again.
So the Toronto Star's publication that I work for has a foundation that provides funds for underprivileged kids to go outdoors, to enjoy the outdoors and attend camps. And this was my story of how I reconnected going outside after a difficult time. And so, yeah, if you could donate to the Fresh Air Fund, that would be great. You can go to the star.com and go check us out.
Andy, thanks for joining me on the show. I've appreciated the chat, and thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, David. It was a pleasure.
Andy Takagi is a reporter with the Toronto Star. Coming up, an intimate portrait of life on the streets, not as a bystander, but as one walking into danger to bring hope. We'll talk to a street-level gang interventionist and a street outreach worker about what that career entails in just a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
In the 70s, 4 young women were found dead. For nearly 50 years, their cases went cold. I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. In the season finale of Crime Beat, I share how investigators uncovered shocking evidence of a serial killer and hear exclusive interviews with the killer's family. Listen to the full season of Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music by asking Alexa to play the podcast Crime Beat.
The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
I'm here with someone who spent decades on the front lines, reaching homeless individuals, people who are trafficked, gang-involved youth right where they live, under bridges, in drug houses, in ERs. He's a Dalai Lama-endorsed author, and he brings hope, healing, and hard-earned truth from the streets. He's a street-level gang interventionist. He's a street outreach worker, and he's from Texas. His name is Anthony Goulet. You can check out the book he co-authored, Broken Home, Healed Nest, available wherever books are sold. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here.
You've spent decades working with youth in situations so tough, I would have a hard time imagining them. What first calls someone to work like this?
I believe the calling of a street outreach worker, of a street level gang interventionist, in order for us to really be effective in street outreach, we've had to have first done some serious in-reach within our own minds, within our own hearts. And for me, that journey began within a drug-infused home and a lot of dysfunction in my life. And so a lot of mentors came into my life who kind of brought this light of love and hope and healing. And it didn't happen immediately, but at one point I realized I want to be like them. I want to be able to go out and reach people who are struggling the same way that others had done for me. I mean, what else are you supposed to do with the miracle than to continue to gift it back to others? And that's that for me, that's how the journey began.
I have noticed anecdotally, and maybe you'll confirm this, a lot of people drawn to that kind of work either dealt with those problems themselves, like they dealt with addiction, they dealt with being in environments like that, or they grew up observing others who did. Is that true that a lot of people from backgrounds like that are drawn to the work?
I believe so. I've never experienced someone drawn to the work we do who doesn't have a testimony and lived experience, direct or even indirect experiences. I love it when someone doesn't necessarily have that, lived experience, because I don't think it disqualifies anyone. It's fine, but the vast majority of people called to this work have been through those fires and are willing to go back into those fires to help others who are still trapped in that suffering. Yes.
We were chatting at the commercial break there, and you talked about abandoned buildings, drug houses, being under bridges. You referred to it as your office. And from that perspective, what does a day in the office doing outreach work look like?
Being on call 24/7, responding to the needs of youth and young adults who have been trafficked, who are marginalized, who are homeless, who are missing, who are exploited, it can definitely take its toll on someone. So you have to stay grounded in your calling and your heart's purpose and whatever spiritual practice someone may have or meditative practice, whatever it is. So yes, it could be a call at 1 a.m. and you're driving an hour and a half to get to an emergency room where a young lady who was identified as a trafficking survivor needs a stable placement because they don't have safe family, and you're ensuring that their exams get completed and that you get them back to an emergency shelter safely and start the long-term processes with her. It could be just driving around, being proactive. Perhaps you didn't get a call, but you stop by a local area where you know there's a drug house or an abandoned building, and you just start talking to the people in the community who you know, because like anything, community relationship is huge. And maybe you go in or around the abandoned building or the drug house and encounter a couple people and strike up a conversation, and it can lead to a lot of unexpected but beautiful things like a suicide intervention, a young lady sitting in an abandoned building that I encountered once who had a razor pressed against her wrist, and she thought that her life was over and she didn't see a reason to go on. And so we had a conversation. There was a broken mirror in this abandoned building, and I just urged her. I said, look, let's just look at this mirror, right? Like, put the razor down, give me a minute. And I said, sometimes you have to see your true reflection even through the brokenness. And we shed some tears and some stories and some silence. And then she allowed me to take her to an emergency psychiatric unit where she got long-term services. And so beautiful moments happen like that. And I think when we don't avoid our own heart, when we don't avoid our own pull of our own humanity calling us in a certain direction, we encounter people who just need a smile, some light, some love. And it doesn't have to be extreme, like going into an abandoned building. It can be letting someone go in front of us in a checkout at the grocery store, or smiling at someone and acknowledging that they're a fellow sentient being and they exist and they matter, and having soft eyes that come from a soft heart. And all of that is part of the calling. And yeah, I never had an office space to work from. All my paperwork was done in my car, and I'm grateful for that calling. It means a lot to me.
Is winning someone's trust when the rest of the world has failed them like that, is it really just as simple as being present in the moment and kind of connecting with them on simple terms? Or are there big secrets or big tricks you can bring to the table?
The first thing I do, and I'm sure there's 1,000 ways to do this. I'm sure there's more than 1,000 ways to do this. Whatever situation I walk into, whether it is a room full of youth, young adults who are identified as gang affiliated, whether it is an abandoned building, whether it is a drug house, I walk in and I tell people something immediately. I just look at them and I say a few things right off the bat. I remind them, I say, you are a sacred blessing, miracle, and a gift. My name's Anthony. Some people call me Tony. You can call me whatever you want. I'm not here to stress you. I'm here to bless you. And I don't know what you need. You're your own expert. I'm just here to serve. How can I serve you? And I really believe having that servant's heart, being willing to, if all you want is me to, F off and get out of your face, cool, right? If you want some food or shelter, and, we'll work on things. And to whatever extent you're willing to receive, I'm here to serve you. And I really go by the Dalai Lama's quote when the Dalai Lama reminded us that our primary purpose in this life is to help others. And if we can't help them, at least don't hurt them.
Yeah, and meet people where they're at, it sounds like it's a big part of it.
Yes. Because in this world where people have constantly been bombarded about everything they're not, to hear someone walk up and see you and hear you and acknowledge you as a sacred blessing, miracle, and a gift, it's not a tactic. It's from my heart, because that's how I truly see all of us. And when we remind others of that, something beautiful happens, even if it's just a little bit of thawing out some of our needs that were frozen by trauma, and maybe a tear comes out, and but those tears, they flow from our eyes towards our heart. And I think that's the journey, our head back to our heart, to reclaim our vision, our mission, our dream, our purpose.
The work must take a toll on you, though. Like, how do you take care of yourself after witnessing trauma and intervening with it every day?
Well, it takes a village to raise an Anthony, and I'm grateful to have my wife and my kids, and they're just the blessing, and they understand and respect my calling, and they know that I'm passionate about it. And so I like to come home and get a little exercise in, a little downtime, drink some decaffeinated tea, meditate, pray, and write, and just the basics, just living. I think we have to keep our own cups full, and so we can pour into others, and taking a break and stepping back and realizing we just can do our part. I'm just offering my little piece. That piece is peace together. And it's important to make sure we take care of ourselves, and include ourselves in the same compassion we're giving others.
Anthony, thanks for sharing some of this powerful stuff and talking about what you do. I appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for having me, and thank you. And I hope everything is blessed and well for you and all your listeners.
Appreciate that. Anthony Goulet is a street-level gang interventionist, a street outreach worker from Texas. Check out his book that he co-authored, Broken Home, Healed Nest. That's available wherever books are sold. Anthony, thanks again, my friend.
Thank you, David.
Ever tried to get a cat to do anything? Up next, someone who gets them to ride scooters, walk tight ropes, and even act for an upcoming film. We will speak to the record-holding animal trainer doing a job that most of us couldn't ever dream of, and find out how they do it in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
There are a lot of jobs most of us could not do, and for me, one of them, animal trainer. I don't have patience, and I'm not great with pets, but we are here with someone who does have patience and is great with pets. She trains dogs, cats. Her cat was recently filmed on a movie. She's going to be in Busker Fest in Toronto from August 29th to September 1st with a show called The Ultimates. Her name is Melissa Millett. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You've trained cats to ride scooters, pass basketballs. Like, who sets out to do a job like this? What inspired you to be in this work in the first place?
Well, I want to set the record straight. Being a middle-aged cat lady is cool. Okay,
yes.
Let's start with that.
Boom. Yes. Record set straight.
No, I started with dogs, and I was doing my show, and I thought, how can I really wow people and stand apart? Let's train cats. And I don't know if everybody knows this, but they're thought of as one of the most difficult animals to train and work with.
You know what's wild? My cat can shake and high five, but it's still, while he's doing it, it doesn't quite look like he's doing it. Like, it's not clear whether he's doing a trick or not because he's so nonchalant about it. But he's doing the trick. I mean, we tell him to sit, he sits. We tell him to give the paw, he gives the paw. High five, high five. What makes cats so hard to train?
I think that cats are just highly independent, or perhaps are they too smart? Are they not motivated? There's no desire to please us. Perhaps, honestly, it could be that dogs were bred for 12,000 years to work alongside man, and they domesticated by feeding off our human waste dumps. And cats are still, I mean, if we let cats go, they can still survive on their own. They don't really need us. They don't really need to work with us. They do love to work, though. When you train them, they absolutely love to work because they're very intelligent and they like the mental stimulation.
The ancestors of dogs really were harmful to people, so we kind of like bred out the ones that were violent and dangerous, so it's like in their DNA. Whereas with cats, the ancestors, I mean, they might have scratched you, but we didn't really need them to be super like loving of us, and I think that's how we ended up with cats that are so nonchalant. How do we start training a cat? Because I've had friends who've tried and they just fail right from the get-go.
A lot of it, so the training that I do for dogs and cats, it's all about them being in control, which is interesting because we feel like we need to have control. But yeah, even the dogs I train where I let them think that they're training me, yes, it actually takes you farther because the dog is a partner, not a puppet. But that's a wide range of out there theory. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. First, with a cat, you teach a cat to follow a lure. So you take a piece of food, and if they keep their nose to it like a magnet and follow it for an inch, feed. And then increase the distance that they're following. And then you could lure them into a circle or lure them in a weaving through your legs or lure them through a hula hoop. But cats don't really follow lures always like dogs do. So starting with that simple thing can make a big difference.
But what if your cat isn't food motivated, which I find myself with a lovely black cat named Tomato who doesn't really care about snacks, doesn't really care about treats?
In that case, I mean, all animals are food motivated or we wouldn't be alive. But that's a old expression with animal trainers but how much do they love food, right? I think you're referring to doesn't love food as much as, say, a dog. My cats are not free fed. That's one thing. They're all good weight, but they're not free fed. I put their food down. If they don't eat it, it disappears. And then when I put their food down, they go, oh, I better eat this quickly. So they eat like dogs. So they have more value for food.
Yeah.
I don't recommend starving your dog.
I don't have the heart to take away his meal, you know?
No, I don't want to starve. No, you're right. I don't want to starve animals. Like, I just take it away for one day or not to make them hungry, but just to show them that food is not always available. But then I also get all of these different types of treats and I figure out what they like most. And there's lick sticks. I bet your cat would love a lick stick. Have you ever tried those?
That sounds like something we're not allowed to say on the radio. But no, my cat does not have a lick stick.
Well, that could be the next thing you could try.
Let's talk about some of these wild tricks. What are some of the more extreme ones that you've taught your performers, your animals to do?
Well, I also have to give a mini brag because I was searching up my cat on Reddit for this movie that he's doing. So I typed my name in and cat. And I came up with my favorite trick. It's in the Guinness World Record book. We were in 2022, 2024, and 25. But I saw like the top executive that makes all the decisions at Guinness World Records saying that this trick was their favorite of all time. I was like, well, are you serious?
So this isn't just your favorite. This is the Guinness favorite.
I can't even. I screenshotting it. I'm going to print it. It's my dog and my cat riding a scooter together. It's adorable.
Like running with the handle and the gas and doing it all like that?
Well, the cat makes the dog do all the work, as cats do. They're very smart. The cat's sitting on the front of the scooter. The dog is behind pushing the cat while the cat freeloads. So is that a cat trick?
It's unclear.
Yes. No, that's one. Driving a mini car, rebounding, sit pretty on my head. That's pretty impressive for a cat.
Now, you don't just do performances for audiences, you do performances for clients, I imagine, sometimes. Have you ever gotten any weird requests for performances from your animals that you were able to fulfill?
I've been asked to go to weird locations, but I'm really particular about where they go. So I have not done any weird performances. But I've asked for weird locations. I don't remember where they are, but far away. And I'm like, I think maybe I'll stick close to home.
Now, is it mostly vocal commands that you're giving the animals, or is there a lot of like nonverbal body cues that are going on when you're connecting with your animals as they perform?
Interesting fact, I have 4 deaf animals in the show, 3 deaf dogs, 1 deaf cat. It was not much of a stretch because, like, to answer your question, I do mostly hand signals. So it was a good shift in the dogs into deaf animals. But I also have a lot of prop tricks. So the prop is the cue. But yeah, animals respond better to body language and physical cues.
If I were tone deaf, I could never be a performance pianist, no matter how much I practice, right? Or I couldn't sing, you know? Are there some animals that just don't have the aptitude to be great performers, or do you believe that any animal is trainable?
I think what I do with the animals is I figure out what is within them that they enjoy. And most animals can perform that way, but some animals, they just can't handle the environment and they don't care enough. For sure. They don't care enough. They don't care enough about the food, like you'd said at the start.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think all animals can do it.
My cat is motivated by prosciutto, and that's it. But it's so salty. We can only give it to him so often. Tell me what it's like to have an animal in a movie. Like, are you really involved in the set, or you just hang back and let the actors just work with the animal?
I'm really involved in the set. I work with the actor as a partner, which is really intimidating sometimes. Like, we just worked with Austin Butler, and it's like he's getting, he's just finished the scene. He's got all this pressure, and the director is giving him information. And I come in and I say, "Excuse me, can you tell me how's the cat looking in the car? And can you give him this treat?" So really, really involved, and you really need an actor that's generous to be a partner.
You must have a great sense of pride when an animal you've trained is on the big screen and you're there watching the movie for the first time. And it almost feels like you're in the movie in a way, because that animal is really a representation of your training. But it's this kind of role where you're not seen as a person, but your work is very much seen on the screen. That must be a weird feeling.
It's a huge sense of pride. It is far more difficult than people realize it is. It's amazing to see.
Your cat, I was told, the best cat in the world, according to one director, and is going to be in an upcoming film called Caught Stealing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, he searched across the continent, and he chose Tonic for the feature. We shot exterior New York. He's running with Austin Butler from Gangsters, and it was the adventure of my life. It was incredible to make, and I bet you it's going to be incredible to watch.
Melissa, thank you for joining me on this stream of consciousness journey about your interesting job. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Melissa Millett is an animal trainer from Ontario, Canada. Check her out at Busker Fest, August 29th to September 1st in the show The Ultimates. Coming up after the break, split custody of your friendship after a breakup. That is, how to stay friends with a broken up couple when you've got a pretty good relationship with both partners. It can be a tricky thing to navigate. Like if Sally just hooked up with someone new and it's steamy, do you pass the details on to her ex, Sarah? That is the question. The ethics, the do's and do nots, and just generally how to stay friends with a broken up couple up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. It's time for Sex Etc. with Samatha Bitty. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Wow, what happens when you are caught in the crossfire? Today we are talking about split custody of friendships here on Sex Etc. with Samatha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. I'm sure you've had I'm sure you've had friends that you've been friends with person A and person B in a couple, and when they split, you stay friends with both of them. And it is a situation fraught with trouble. It can be, at least. We're here with Samatha Bitty to discuss. Samantha, welcome in.
Thank you, David.
I myself am very much a I'm friends with both of you kind of person when I befriend couples. I'm not like I'm just buddies with the dude or I'm just buddies with them. I kind of go for both people, and it's happened to me numerous times. Is this something that's come up in your life a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as we enter into the second wave of divorce. Like, you and I both got divorced young.
Yes.
So we were kind of outliers in that regard. But now we're in this other wave, I think, at least at our age. But just in general, I mean, this goes back to like even being in high school, being in elementary school, and people are dating and you're friends with both people. And they decide to split up, and there can be a little bit of like, me versus them or you versus me. Like, and what does it look like, to Switzerland about it? And sometimes it's a really clear-cut case, I think. Sometimes you're friends with a couple where you just have a relationship with one of the people, and the other person is just kind of like part of your world because of them. It's an easy, full custody situation. And then there are times when someone did something wild and you're like, wow, like I actually can't be friends with you anymore because you're on some wild stuff.
It's messy. Like it's a sort of a moral or ethical decision. Like you behaved badly to my friend and I can't accept a friendship with you.
Are, like on principle. And then there's the times that I think makes sense for us to discuss today, which is when, you know, whatever, relationships end and you do have a relationship with both people. And, you know, how do you navigate that? And I think a lot of it relies on the emotional maturity and intelligence of the parties involved. And then also our own, like, what part can we be in possession of? Like, what can we control?
Sure. Now, one thing that I want to get out right the gate, get on right out the gate. I said some version of a correct thing there. The passing of information. I have been guilty of using third parties who have been friends with both me and my wonderful ex-spouse to get like an update, a life update. Notably, my brother is still friends with my ex-wife. And so every now and again, I do the check-in, which is like, whatever, I have bad boundaries. Maybe I shouldn't ask. But what do you do when you're that friend? What do you do when you're my brother in the abstract sense? Trust me, you don't want to be him. And the friend asks for the update of the partner, you know, to spell this out. What's going on with my ex? How do you answer those questions?
What I've learned at this stage of life is it's important to be proactive. So being proactive and being boundaried, like out the gate, being like, I'm not going to be the person who's in between here. Like, I'm not going to relay information. I can, and I can always tell when I'm with someone and they're telling me something that I know they want me to then, make sure they're like, even if it's not as direct, like you have to stay like vigilant and be like, okay, this person is trying to get me to pass along whatever. When it's an explicit ask, I really do try to stay neutral and be like, I'd rather not be the person in the middle. They can find someone else to do that messy business. I don't want to be that person, because you end up in broken telephone, you end up in suddenly you're the villain, like nothing good comes of it. And I do think it's important, even at the onset of a breakup, letting somebody know, like, look, whatever we talk about is between us. I'm not going to be a go-between.
There's a problem here. People like me who have BLBE, big little brother energy. I love attention, and it's like such a way. You got to be careful, and you got to manage your own impulses that aren't great. But like, it's such a quick way to be a focal point in a way. Like I was just a friend, but now I'm this focal point. I'm the go-between. It's lots of attention. With great power comes great responsibility. It can be tempting, right? Like to get into a mess just for the drama of it all.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you like gossip, especially if, as you said, you like the attention, you like the power. It's like, oh, I'm the trusted one or whatever. For me, present day, I'm not like, I suggest, if you want to have sustainable relationships with both parties, as they grow, as they heal, as they change, as we do, ideally, you operate from a place of neutrality, and I said Switzerland, but not in the Switzerland way, because not doing anything when there's evil afoot, that isn't neutral, but I digress. I also think that if you're the couple, if you're the people who have parted ways, I invite just a reflection on the ways in which, when we're in a partnership and we've invited friends into that partnership, that friend has a relationship to our relationship. Right. And they're going through their own grief about it. And I know that when I've been the person who is in the couple and there are mutual friends who feel like they have to choose a side or whatever, I tend to be proactive and selective around which friends I might talk about my ex to. Because those things don't necessarily stay true as you heal and grow.
Sure. What about like sexual aftershock? I'm using a buzzword. Like when XA sleeps with somebody and then you know that your other friend XB is going to not be happy with it, and now you have this new information. Do you relay it? Like, that's the hardest part, right? When someone moves on and starts dating, or maybe they haven't moved on and they've started dating. Do you say something? Are you upfront with it? Are you clear that you're not going to communicate, like you said earlier? Like, how do you deal with a situation like that?
Yeah, I think that that has a lot of nuance. It really depends on the parties involved. And you know how I feel about autonomy and consent. And we have to distinguish between what is our information to share, right? Like, where are people entitled to privacy? What's the difference between privacy and secrecy? And I do, again, comes back to that thing of being proactive and saying, like, okay, you're telling me this. What if so and so asks me? Like, what do I do? Right. And again, I personally, I can't, me, Samantha, as a friend, as a whoever, like, of course, I've been the one to be like, oh my God, they've whatever. But I would invite us to evaluate our motives. Why am I telling this person? Like, let's say the friend who's not quote unquote moved on and they're still like carrying a torch or they're still like romanticizing the situation. In that sense, it might be like humane to be like, look, I think that they've moved on.
Yeah.
You know, like, and again, it's going to be on a case by case basis. It's going to be depends on how close you are with people, how well you know them. But I definitely think that the pathway to peace is to not be the go-between.
The pathway to peace is to not be the go-between. What about social events? Like, there's certain social events where you really do want to include both of them. Maybe it's a wedding, maybe it's a holiday party, who knows what. How do you navigate that?
Again, you let them know the situation and you let them know the expectations for behavior, right? It's like, I just want you to know that so-and-so is coming. I care about you both. And also, like, how does this feel? I can check in with you throughout the night, or like maybe you should bring someone so that you have like a safe person that helps you to feel grounded. Like, just doing that emotional pre-pro and let adult people make their own decisions.
It all boils down to negotiating boundaries up front, which I feel like is so many things that we talk about. Samantha, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Samatha Bitty, sexual health and consent educator. That's our show. Thanks for tuning in. That's a wrap on the week. I will be back Monday night and then off to the desert on Wednesday. I am David Cooper. This was The Last Show.
Big Brother is back.
Let's freak it go!
This summer, the game gets hotter, the alliances get trickier, and the blind sides, brutal.
Just a roller coaster of backstabbing and craziness.
New house guests, new twists, same epic drama.
Bro, I'm gunning for you. You're my #1 target.
Who can you trust when everyone's watching?
Game on, baby.
Big Brother. All new Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays on Global. Stream on Stack TV.